My sister and I both competed to become crown princess. On the day we entered the palace, Mother laced the peach blossom soup with sweet wine, causing my cheeks to flush crimson and my speech to falter before His Majesty. The Empress frowned slightly. Though this girl possesses beauty, her demeanor is frivolous and unfit to be a suitable match for the crown prince. My sister, Lin Yushu, was praised for her dignified grace and regal bearing. Returning home in dismay, I pleaded with Father to intercede on my behalf. He merely swept his sleeves aside and departed. You brought this upon yourself. Who else can you blame? Though Yushu is an adopted daughter, she understands propriety and knows when to advance or retreat. The Lin family will naturally support her wholeheartedly. Half a month later, the imperial decree arrived. Lin Yushu was named the crown prince's secondary consort. As for me, because of my improper conduct before the throne, I was betrothed to the Prince of Huainan, a man who had outlived 3 wives, to be his next wife. On the eve of my wedding, I wept and asked my mother why she had ruined me. She replied, "You've had an easy life since childhood." Yushu's fate was bitter. You should never have competed with her. I married into Huainan. The Duke was brutal, lashing out with whips at the slightest provocation. Within 3 years, I met the same fate as his 3 previous wives, buried hastily in a mass grave. In my final breath, I heard a maid whisper, "The crown prince ascended the throne. Consort Lin is pregnant again and has been elevated to imperial consort. The Lin family is bathed in glory." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I entered the palace for the selection. Mother held a bowl of sweet soup, smiling radiantly at me. "Rower, drink this porridge. Your complexion needs to be rosy for the audience with His Majesty." 1. I stared intently at Mother. Willow leaf brows, almond-shaped eyes, and a small mole on her right cheek when she smiled. I inherited her brows and eyes, but not that mole. Lin Yushu had it. As a child, I once innocently asked, "Why does Sister Yushu look more like Mother? Isn't she an adopted daughter?" Mother's expression darkened then. "Silly child, resemblance comes from nurture. Yushu may not be blood-related, but she's dearer than any biological daughter." She slapped me across the face. "Never mention the adopted daughter again. It only hurts Yushu." I suppressed the surging memories. Taking the sweet soup, I turned to Lin Yushu seated beside me. "Sister, before entering the palace, I offer you this soup in place of wine. May we sisters, whoever is chosen, support each other and bring honor to our family." Lin Yushu paused slightly, a flicker of panic crossing her eyes. She knew full well, this soup contained something. "Sister, you're too kind. I've already had breakfast. Drinking more might cause indigestion, and I wouldn't want to appear unwell before His Majesty." I scoffed, raising my voice, "What's wrong with you, sister? You're always urging me to eat more, saying plumpness is beauty for a woman. Why can't you take a sip when I offer?" The atmosphere in the hall suddenly froze. Father frowned, about to speak. Mother suddenly gasped, her hand brushing the table edge. The soup bowl in my hand clattered to the floor. Porcelain shards scattered, sweet soup spilling everywhere. "Rower!" Mother glared at me reproachfully, her tone resigned. "You're about to enter the palace, yet still so clumsy. What if you'd soaked your sister's gown and ruined the auspicious hour?" She pulled Lin Yushu close, examining her with concern. Lin Yushu wore a moon-white brocade gown adorned with cloud patterns, appearing simple and elegant. Yet as she moved, the hem shimmered with a subtle glow, an effect achieved by weaving in western silk from the ice silkworms. Her entire headdress was adorned with pearls and jade inlays, making her skin appear as white as snow and lending her an otherworldly beauty. These were the most valuable pieces from her mother's dowry, specially remade by veteran artisans in the palace. In contrast, I wore a gown of pale yellow paired with willow green, my hair adorned with a crimson gold hairpin set with rubies. Each piece was personally selected by my mother. Rower has fair skin, these vibrant colors suit her best. She even applied rouge to my cheeks herself. The result was overly garish, like a flower maiden on the opera stage. In my past life, I entered the palace wearing this very face. Among the elegant, refined noblewomen, I stood out like a jarring joke. I'd heard Lin Yurong was the capital's most beautiful woman. So this is what she looks like. Shoo, she really is beautiful. It's just her mother always dresses her in ugly clothes, calling it retro style. I once thought these noble ladies envied me, that my mother personally attended to everything for me. It turns out everyone knew my mother was harming me. 2. The carriage awaited outside. Lin Yushu and I took our leave of our parents. Father Lin Wenyuan's gaze lingered briefly on my garish attire, his brow furrowing slightly before he said simply, "The palace demands strict propriety. Mind your words and actions." He handed me a food box. "Your mother rose early to prepare the sweet porridge herself. You never touched it, how willful. Take it with you on the journey and finish it all." To Lin Yushu, he spoke gently, "Yushu, be cautious in all matters. Everything at home has been settled." Lin Yushu was the daughter of my father's old friend. Her parents died young, and she came to live with us at 6. We opened the ancestral hall, inscribed her in the family registry, and made her the Lin family's legitimate eldest daughter. Father pitied her loneliness. Mother cherished her as her own flesh and blood. Conversely, I, her biological daughter, felt like an extra. I once thought mother yielded to father's pressure, forcing her to treat me unfairly. But in my past life, as I lay dying on a broken bed in the side courtyard of the prince's mansion, our family maid, Chui Lu, returned to the Lin residence to visit relatives and accidentally overheard a conversation between my mother and father. My mother wept uncontrollably. "Rest assured, my lord. Yushu is now the imperial consort, and with child. Her future prospects are boundless. Even if my elder sister were to know this from beyond the grave, she would be pleased. But what about Riaoer?" Mother gave a cold laugh. "Her? Though the prince has a temper, she remains his legitimate consort. If she behaves herself, she might yet live comfortably. Even if she doesn't, that's simply her fate." Lin Yushu was indeed the daughter of an old acquaintance. That old acquaintance was mother's elder sister. Father had once been deeply enamored with her, and a betrothal had been arranged. But at a flower banquet, she was framed for an illicit affair with a stable hand, her reputation ruined. To preserve the family's honor, grandfather arranged for mother, the younger sister, to take her place in the marriage to father. That poor aunt was banished to the country estate, where she bore the stablehand's daughter, Lin Yushu. Years later, she died of depression. My father, still pining for his lost love, brought Lin Yushu into our home. My mother's affection for Lin Yushu was never an act. She was her own niece, the only flesh and blood her elder sister left behind in this world. In my past life, listening to those words, my heart grew cold inch by inch. As the last mouthful of blood spilled forth, I stared at the tattered tassels hanging from the canopy. I swore that if there was a next life, I would make these people pay for their crimes with their own blood. Now, I have returned. I want nothing to do with these so-called relatives. What I want is for you, to be unable to live, yet unable to die. 3. The carriage rocked and swayed as it made its way toward the palace. Inside, besides me, Sun Nanny, a trusted elder from the Empress's entourage. I drew a deep breath, removing the heavy gold hairpins and jewels from my hair. Then I took out a handkerchief, dipping it into the clear water from my flask. Slowly, I wiped away the thick layers of rouge from my face. A flicker of surprise crossed Sun Nanny's eyes. I pushed the jewelry toward her. Though gaudy in style, it was all genuine gold and silver, worth a fortune. "Nanny, you've endured a long journey. These worldly possessions have become a burden to me. If you would not disdain them, please accept them as a token of my gratitude." Sun Nanny had witnessed the entire scene at the Lin residence. She had said nothing, only watched silently. Now, she took the jewelry, weighed it in her hand, and tucked it into her sleeve. "Miss Lin, you are too kind." She paused for a moment, then remarked casually, "If this old servant may venture a word, the handkerchief embroidered with orchids in your sleeve, the stitches are quite distinctive. Might it be from the Gu embroidery school of Jiangnan?" My heart skipped a beat. This handkerchief was left to me by my maternal grandmother. She came from a renowned embroidery family in Jiangnan, and her Gu embroidery skills were unmatched in the capital. By the time I understood such things, she was already gravely ill, managing only to embroider a few handkerchiefs and make a few small garments for me. She said, "Raoer, your grandmother has little to leave you. Keep these embroideries safe." Should you ever face hardship, selling them might help a little. Later, when my grandmother passed away, Mother took most of her belongings, saying she would keep them safe for me. Only these handkerchiefs remained, because I always carried them with me. In my past life, when I suffered torment in the prince's mansion, I once considered selling these handkerchiefs to pay for a doctor. But the prince was cruel and violent, robbing me even of this last hope and throwing them into the brazier. Nanny's son suddenly mentioned. Suppressing my doubts, I replied softly, "You have keen eyes, Mother. This is indeed the goo embroidery passed down from my grandmother." Son Nanny nodded, said no more, and closed her eyes to rest. But I secretly noted it. Goo embroidery. The Empress seems to favor goo embroidery. In my previous life, after Lin Yushu was selected, she had specially sought out a goo embroidery master to create a screen depicting 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix for the Empress, which earned great praise. The carriage halted before the palace gates. We transferred to a sedan chair, heading toward the Palace of Stored Beauty. Along the way, Lin Yushu sat upright and dignified, her posture elegant. I sat quietly, my mind racing with calculations. The selection process was not decided in a single round. The preliminary round assessed family background and appearance, the second round tested talent and virtue, the final selection was personally determined by the Empress and the Crown Prince. In my past life, I was eliminated in the preliminary round for a lapse in decorum before the throne. Lin Yushu, however, advanced through every stage, ultimately being betrothed to the Crown Prince. This time, I would tread her path step by step, transforming it into my own ascent to glory. 4. The preliminary selection took place in the main hall of the Palace of Cultivating Beauty. Over 30 noble ladies stood in 3 rows, awaiting judgment from the Empress and several high-ranking consorts. Lin Yushu stood before me, her posture as straight and graceful as a lotus blossom. When her turn came, she curtsied gracefully, her voice clear and resonant. "This humble maiden, Lin Yushu, pays her respects to Her Majesty the Empress and the noble consorts." The Empress gave a slight nod. "Raise your head." Lin Yushu lifted her gaze slowly, her eyes respectful yet free of flattery. Dignified in appearance, proper in bearing," the Empress remarked to Consort Xian beside her with a smile. "Is she the daughter of Minister Lin?" "Indeed," the Consort Xian replied with a smile. "I hear she excels in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, a true scholar." "Quite so," the Empress nodded. "Keep your place." Lin Yushu thanked her and withdrew. As she passed by me, a barely perceptible curve touched her lips. My turn. I stepped forward steadily and bowed according to protocol. "This humble maiden, Lin Riao, pays her respects to Her Majesty the Empress and all the noble consorts." "Raise your head." I lifted my gaze, my expression serene. The Empress studied me for a moment, her brow softening slightly. "Though your makeup is too plain, you possess innate beauty, like a pearl or jade. It reminds me of an old acquaintance from my youth." The Empress continued, "You too are of the Lin family." "Which daughter are you?" "Your humble servant is the second daughter. My elder sister is Lin Yushu." The Empress quipped, "One sister adorned with jewels and finery, the other so plain. Could it be your parents favored one daughter over the other, reserving finery for only one?" I respectfully replied, "Just as fingers vary in length, so too does parental affection. My elder sister possesses grace and refinement. Not only did our parents favor her, but I, her younger sister, willingly yielded all the finer things to her. In name, it was praise. In truth, it was a rebuke. I implied Lin Yushu was arrogant and showed no kindness to her younger sister. Leave your token." My heart eased. I'd passed the initial selection. Those who passed the first round would reside in the Palace of Cultivating Beauty for a month, learning court etiquette before the second selection. Lin Yushu and I were assigned separate rooms, though within the same courtyard. After settling in, Lin Yushu came to find me. "Sister, why did you say those things before the Empress today?" Her tone was gentle, yet her eyes held reproach. "We sisters were selected together. We should support each other. Speaking like that only invites misunderstanding, that I'm too domineering at home." I feigned confusion. "Sister misunderstands. I merely spoke the truth. You possess a graceful and refined nature, I feel inadequate by comparison." She stared at me for a moment before suddenly smiling. My sister has truly grown up. Very well. In the palace henceforth, we must still work together in harmony. Sister speaks wisely. After she left, I closed the door and let out a cold laugh. In the evening, Matron's son came to deliver the palace regulations. I took the opportunity to hand her a pouch. Thank you for your hard work, Matron. A small token of my appreciation. Son ma'am pinched the pouch, several gold coins inside. She murmured, Miss Lin, you're too kind. If I may add, the final selection is imminent. Your talents will be crucial. The Empress favors Gu embroidery and appreciates musical skill. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Well, he leans toward chess and archery. Thank you for the advice, ma'am. Additionally, Sun's voice grew even quieter. Your elder sister, Lin Yushu, has been visiting Consort Xian's palace for tea these past days. Second miss, you must remain cautious in your actions. Alarm bells rang in my heart. Consort Xian was the birth mother of the second prince, and the animosity between the crown prince and the second prince was known throughout the court and the realm. Lin Yushu had already established connections with Consort Xian. After seeing Matron's son off, I carefully recalled my past life. Yes, shortly after Lin Yushu was selected as crown princess, Consort Xian's maternal family received promotions. The second prince's influence surged dramatically. The Prince of Huainan who had me beaten to death belonged to the second prince's faction. So from the very beginning, the Lin family had been playing both sides. They sought to curry favor with the crown prince while avoiding offending the second prince. What a cunning scheme. 10 days before the final selection, the Palace of Imperial Training organized a preliminary talent showcase. The noble ladies displayed their skills: music, chess, calligraphy, painting, song, dance, embroidery, a dazzling array. Lin Yushu performed high mountains and flowing water. Her exquisite qin playing, evoking a profound and distant atmosphere, earned thunderous applause. When my turn came, I chose embroidery. On a plain white silk handkerchief, I embroidered a cluster of orchids using the Gu embroidery technique. The stitches were fine and dense, the colors soft and elegant. Most remarkable were the dewdrops on the orchid leaves, created with special silk thread, which glistened with a watery sheen when light hit them. The matron in charge of instruction watched and nodded repeatedly. Mastering Gu embroidery takes at least 10 years of dedicated practice. Young Miss Lin, at such a tender age, has achieved remarkable skill. Just then, Her Majesty the Empress arrived for her inspection. She approached me, picked up the handkerchief, and examined it closely, her eyes brimming with admiration. Exquisite embroidery. This technique for the dewdrops. Is it the long-lost pearlite needle? Your Majesty has keen eyes, I replied respectfully. My maternal grandmother once taught me this method, but I am slow-witted and have only grasped the basics. Your maternal grandmother was Gu Yunxiu of the Gu family from Jiangnan. Surprise flickered in the Empress's eyes, the heir to the Gu family's legacy. In my youth, I once received guidance in embroidery from the esteemed Gu matriarch. Alas. But enough of that. It's all in the past. She set down the handkerchief and spoke gently, prepare well. I look forward to seeing your work in the next round of selection. Thank you, Your Majesty. After the Empress departed, Lin Yushu's expression darkened noticeably. That very evening, she sought me out. When did you learn Gu embroidery? I had no idea. My maternal grandmother taught me when she was alive. Over the years, I've embroidered for amusement during my leisure time, I replied casually. At that time, Lin Yushu was still residing at the estate. You truly keep your talents well hidden. She smiled, but the warmth didn't reach her eyes. Yet in the palace of reserve beauty, showing too much brilliance may not be wise. Remember, sister, a tree that stands out in the forest is sure to be struck by the wind. Sister's words are wise. I replied obediently. But inside, I sneered coldly. Already getting impatient? The real show is yet to come. 3 days before the final selection, an incident occurred in the Palace of Stored Beauty. The noble consort Xian bestowed a silk flower upon each noble lady as an encouragement. Mine was a silk begonia blossom, exquisitely crafted and quite lovely. Yet Lin Yushu's silk peony vanished without a trace. Simultaneously, an identical silk flower was discovered at the bottom of my trousseau chest. Her eyes immediately filled with tears as she wailed to the investigating matron, "Why would Yushu be here? If you liked this flower, just say so. Why go to such lengths?" In an instant, all eyes turned to me. Stealing imperial gifts was a grave offense. The punishment ranged from expulsion from the palace to bringing disgrace upon one's family. In my past life, Lin Yushu had used similar tactics, framing me in the boudoir for stealing her jade pendant, which led to my punishment of kneeling in the ancestral hall for 3 days. Now she was resorting to the same trick again, quite proficiently. I calmly looked at the silk flower and suddenly said, "Sister, may I examine the silk flower more closely?" 6. Lin Yushu hesitated briefly before handing it over. I took it and examined it closely, then suddenly smiled. "Sister, this silk flower is not the one bestowed by her ladyship the consort Xian." "What nonsense are you spouting?" she exclaimed. "They're identical." "Similar in shape, perhaps." I held the flower up to the light. "The one bestowed by consort Xian features petals edged with gold-threaded embroidery. In sunlight, they shimmer with fine golden sparkles. This one lacks that." Lin Yushu had indeed secretly hidden the genuine peony silk flower with me. But I'd been framed by her too many times. I knew these petty tricks inside out. Back home, our parents favored her, believing her no matter how glaring the flaws. But this was the palace. No one was willing to play along with her charade anymore. The others gathered closer to look, and indeed, it was true. Lin Yushu's face turned pale. I continued, "Moreover, the silk flowers in consort Xian's palace all have a tiny Xian character embroidered at the center of the blossom. This one doesn't have it either. Why didn't sister even look at it before declaring it was yours? Could it be that you alone in this world are worthy of wearing a peony silk flower?" The head matron took the flower to examine it, her voice grave. "Indeed, it is not." Lin Yushu panicked. "How could this not be? This must be someone framing me, trying to drive a wedge between us sisters. I beg you, matron, to see clearly." The matron's gaze turned icy. "I hear the eldest Miss Lin has been spoiled since childhood. Not only does she monopolize all her younger sister's clothes and jewelry at home, but she acts so arrogantly and tyrannically in the palace as well. When she loses something, instead of taking responsibility herself, she tries to pin it on others. Truly, what a noble and refined character. This old servant will report the truth to Her Majesty the Empress." Her words carried undeniable weight. Lin Yushu's face drained completely white. That night, she stormed into my room, her usual gentle demeanor gone. "Lin Yurao, you did this on purpose." I continued embroidering my handkerchief with deliberate slowness, not even lifting my head. "What my sister says, her younger sister does not understand. You knew I'd use this trick, so you planted that fake silk flower beforehand, didn't you?" She gritted her teeth. "When did you start scheming against me?" I set down my needlework and looked up at her. "That's a strange thing for my sister to say. I never took anything of yours. My silk flower is still safely stored. How could there be any scheming?" She stared at me intently, then suddenly laughed. Fine. I underestimated you. But Lin Yurao, do you think this will make you win? Don't forget whose side father and mother stand on. Every resource of the Lin family will be at my disposal. You, an abandoned daughter, what do you have to compete with me?" "I'm not competing," I replied calmly. "I'm only reclaiming what rightfully belongs to me." "Belongs to you?" She scoffed. "What in this world is truly yours? Father's affection? Mother's care? Or the Lin family's resources? Lin Yurao, wake up." A sharp pain pierced my heart, yet my expression remained composed. "The night is late. It's time to see our guest out." 7. The day of the final selection dawned clear and crisp. From 30 noble ladies, only 10 remained after rigorous screening. The Empress sat upon the high throne, the Crown Prince seated beside her. This was my first glimpse of Crown Prince Zhou Jingchen. Dressed in a pale yellow brocade robe, his features were sharp and handsome, his demeanor gentle and refined. Yet his gaze held a certain detachment, as if this selection of consorts held little interest for him. The talent showcase began. Lin Yushu played The Phoenix Seeks Its Mate, her keen melody flowing with tender emotion. The crown prince listened, nodding slightly, yet showing little stir of feeling. When my turn came, I presented an embroidered piece. Not a handkerchief, but a miniature embroidered screen painting. It depicted a section of the night banquet of Han Shizai. The figures were vividly rendered, their robes billowing, even the wine cups and dishes on the banquet table clearly discernible. More remarkably, I employed double-sided embroidery technique. The front showcased the lavish night banquet, while the reverse depicted the solitary angler on a cold river. One scene bustling with life, the other steeped in solitude, a striking contrast. The Empress, upon seeing it, expressed delight. This double-sided embroidery technique was not even mastered by the great artist Gu in her prime. That you, so young, have achieved such skill is remarkable. The crown prince also looked over, his gaze lingering on the embroidery for a moment before he suddenly spoke. The two sides present such different moods. Why did second Miss Lin choose this subject? I lowered my eyes and replied, Your Highness, this humble maiden believes life is like embroidery, one side displayed to others, the other concealing the self. Though feasts eventually disperse, solitude endures. To perceive desolation amidst revelry is true insight. A flicker of astonishment crossed the crown prince's eyes as he studied me intently. Insight, he murmured, then turned to the Empress. Mother, this maiden seems quite exceptional. The Empress smiled and nodded. In the final selection results, both Lin Yushu and I made the shortlist. 3 other noble ladies were also chosen. They were the daughter of the Marquis of Jinbei, the daughter of the Minister of Rights, and the daughter of a prince. Back at the Palace of Cultivating Beauty, Lin Yushu's face was grim. 8. The night before the final selection, a fire broke out in the Palace of Cultivating Beauty. The origin of the fire was near my room. Choked awake by thick, billowing smoke, I rushed out of my room in panic. Amid the chaos, someone shoved me from behind. I stumbled forward, about to fall into the flames, when suddenly an arm grabbed me around the waist and pulled me back. Looking up, I met a pair of cold, clear eyes. It was the crown prince. He wore his everyday robes, as if he had just happened to pass by. Your Highness. I stammered, still shaken. Be careful, he said, releasing me with a flat tone. A palace fire is no ordinary matter. Go to a safe place and wait. Thank you for saving my life, Your Highness. He nodded, then turned to direct palace servants in extinguishing the flames. I stepped back, a chill settling in my heart. That shove earlier, someone clearly intended to kill me. Besides Lin Yushu, who else could it be? The fire was quickly extinguished. The investigation concluded it started from an overturned oil lamp. But the lamps near my room hadn't been lit last night. The Empress was furious and ordered a thorough inquiry. In the end, a lowly eunuch took the blame, claiming he'd knocked over the lamp while being lazy. But I knew the truth was far from that. Lin Yushu had suffered repeated humiliations. She must hate me to death. The next day, the final selection was postponed by 3 days. I was temporarily relocated to another courtyard. That night, Sun Langyang came to see me in secret. Second young miss, she whispered, lowering her voice. This old servant has uncovered something. That scapegoat eunuch, his elderly mother was gravely ill. 2 days prior, he suddenly received a large sum of silver for her treatment. Word is it came from a shopkeeper surnamed Lin. Lin. My own parents were handling the aftermath for Lin Yushu. I understood perfectly. 9. 3 days later, the final selection took place in the Cunning Palace. The Empress and Crown Prince sat at the head of the hall, with 5 noble ladies lined up before them. The Empress posed several questions, nothing beyond virtues, conduct, speech, and deeds, along with household management. Lin Yushu answered fluently, citing classics with the poise of a scholar lady. When my turn came, the Empress asked, if you were Crown Princess, how would you assist the heir? I paused briefly before replying, your servant believes the foremost duty in assisting the heir is to refrain from assisting. The words sent a ripple of astonishment through the hall. Even the Crown Prince, who had kept his eyes lowered, lifted his head. Oh! How so? The Empress was intrigued. The heir is the future of the nation. He has enlightened mentors to guide him and virtuous ministers to assist him. Should the crown princess meddle presumptuously, it would be most unseemly. This humble maiden believes the crown princess's duty lies in tending the inner palace, fostering harmony among relatives, and nurturing offspring, thus creating a secure rear for the heir apparent, freeing him from rear concerns. As for the affairs of the front court, they are not for women of the inner palace to meddle in. Appreciation flashed in the empress's eyes. You are indeed clear-headed. The crown prince also gave a slight nod. Ultimately, the empress and crown prince entered to confer privately. The five of us waited outside. Lin Yushu murmured, "Your words just now were quite unconventional. I wonder if His Highness would favor such an unconventional wife." "Whether he favors it or not is entirely His Highness's decision," I replied calmly. "Why trouble yourself, sister?" She snorted coldly and turned her face away. Half an hour later, the decision was announced. The eunuch proclaimed the imperial decree in a loud voice. His voice echoed through Cunning Palace. Zhao, daughter of the Marquis of Jinbei, dignified and virtuous, shall be the crown prince's principal consort. Lin Yurao, daughter of the Minister of Rights, gentle and intelligent, shall be appointed as the crown prince's secondary consort. Lin Yushu shall be granted the title Bao Lin. Bao Lin, the lowest-ranking concubine in the Eastern Palace, barely above a maid. Lin Yushu's face instantly turned as pale as paper. Her body swayed, and she nearly collapsed. As for me, my heart remained largely unmoved. Concubine. That was enough. In this life, I sought neither love nor high rank. I only desired a sufficiently elevated starting point to reclaim, bit by bit, the debts of my past life. I heard this outcome was strongly advocated by the virtuous consort. She argued that Lin Yurome's talent and reputation were widely known. If she were rejected and sent away, it might tarnish her honor. Keeping her in the Eastern Palace, she said, would at least preserve the Lin family's dignity. What a fine face to save. My dear father and mother must be celebrating at home right now. They believe that once Lin Yushu enters the Eastern Palace, with her talents and the Lin family's connections, their fortunes will surely rise. They don't know that in the Eastern Palace, one misstep means eternal ruin. 10. The grand wedding was set for 3 months hence. The crown prince's marriage to his principal consort involved elaborate rituals, while the entry ceremonies for secondary consorts, noble ladies, and imperial concubines were far simpler. I was assigned to the Chiwu courtyard within the Eastern Palace. The courtyard was modest yet serene and elegant, graced by an ancient plum tree. Though deep winter held sway, its buds were already swelling, poised to bloom. On my first day in the Eastern Palace, I went to pay my respects to Crown Princess Zhao Mingjin. As the sole daughter of the Marquis of Jinbei, born into a military family, she possessed a tall stature and an innate, spirited air about her, setting her apart from ordinary noble ladies. I knelt in accordance with protocol. This humble servant, Lady Lin, greets Her Highness the Crown Princess. Rise. Her voice was clear and bright, tinged with a smile. I've long heard of Consort Lin's mastery of the Gu embroidery technique. Seeing you today, I find you truly as brilliant as your art. Your Highness flatters me. No need for formalities. She personally helped me up. The Eastern Palace is rather lonely. From now on, let's address each other as sisters. I'm 2 years older than you, so you may call me Sister Mingjin. A faint warmth touched my heart, yet I remained steadfast in my duty. Proper etiquette must not be neglected, Your Highness. She did not press the matter, merely smiling, as you wish. Do come visit often. I grow restless when alone. Her gaze fell upon my thin garments, and she frowned. Why so lightly dressed? Your hands and feet are ice cold. Have the palace attendants neglected you? It's my constitution. I'm accustomed to the cold. That won't do. She turned and instructed a palace maid. Go fetch my silver fox cloak and drape it over Consort Lin. Also, have the kitchen prepare a bowl of red date and donkey hide gelatin soup daily for her. Your Highness, this is far too precious. Take it when I give it to you. Without waiting for my response, she draped the cloak over my shoulders. Your body is your own. Take care of it. When I was young at the frontier, I froze my knees. Now, whenever it rains or turns cold, they ache. I regret it too late. Her concern was genuine and natural, without a trace of affectation. The next day, I went to pay my respects to the Empress. The Empress saw the cloak given by the Crown Prince's consort, and her eyes deepened with amusement. That child Ming Jean is ever so kind-hearted. Your harmony brings me peace of mind. I presented the headband I had prepared long ago. Made of the finest black velvet, lined with soft cotton, its edges embroidered with intricate auspicious cloud patterns using goo embroidery techniques, and set with a small piece of warm jade at its center. I heard your majesty is prone to headaches in winter. I made this headband with calming herbs inside, and the jade helps focus the mind. I hope it eases your discomfort. The Empress took it, feeling its warm softness. She examined the embroidery closely and praised, such thoughtful craftsmanship. It's touching you went to such trouble. I merely sought to show filial devotion. My dear child. The Empress pulled me down to sit beside her, inquiring in detail about my adjustment to life in the Eastern Palace. She also taught me several recipes for dishes to regulate my cold constitution. A woman's vitality lies in her blood and energy. You are still young, you must take good care of yourself. I recorded each instruction, my heart both bitter and warm. Mother had never shown me such care. The Empress and Crown Princess seemed like genuine female elders, as if fate had compensated me. 11. Life in the Eastern Palace flowed as calmly as still water. I paid my daily respects to the Crown Princess and was occasionally summoned to the Empress's chambers for conversation. Most of my time was spent in the Chiwu courtyard, immersed in embroidery. I embroidered hand warmers and knee guards for the Empress, and riding gloves and wrist guards for the Crown Princess. Though married to the Eastern Palace, she still kept her horseback riding habit, visiting the imperial stables outside the capital once or twice a month. When the Crown Princess received the gloves, her eyes lit up. Rower, how did you know I needed these? The embroiderers in the palace always make them ill-fitting and cumbersome. She tried them on immediately. They fit perfectly, allowing her fingers to move freely, and the edges were embroidered with her favorite honeysuckle pattern. Perfect! She clasped my hand in delight. Rower, you truly understand me. A few days later, she visited me at Chiwu Courtyard, a palace maid behind her carrying a garment. Try this on. She unfolded it, a moon-white men's robe, exquisitely crafted with a simple cut. I was stunned. I've noticed you're always cooped up indoors, and your complexion is growing paler, the Crown Princess said with a smile. Sometimes I dress as a man to stroll outside the palace, it feels more free. I made one for you too. Next time, we'll go out riding and enjoying the spring scenery together, just the two of us. I couldn't refuse her encouragement and changed into the male attire. She circled me twice, clapping her hands and laughing. What a handsome young gentleman. Just a bit too delicate, but never mind, it makes you look more like a scholar from the south. She pinched my waist and hummed disapprovingly, this waist is far too slender. Riower, you must learn boxing from me to build your strength. With that, she actually set up a stance in the courtyard and began teaching me Tai Chi. Having never practiced martial arts before, I was clumsy and unbalanced. During a turn, my footing slipped, and I toppled backward. Careful! The Crown Princess reacted with lightning speed, darting forward to steady my waist with her arm, pulling me back. Still shaken, I leaned against her, inhaling the crisp scent of soapberry mingled with the faint warmth of sunlight. She steadied me upright, her hand lingering briefly on my waist before she chuckled, so slender. But at least I caught you, no harm to my handsome little brother. My face flushed slightly. I cherished every moment spent with the Crown Princess. Her carefree, radiant spirit felt like winter sunshine, melting the icy darkness that had settled in my heart over 2 lifetimes. I returned her kindness wholeheartedly. Knowing her old knee injury made her sensitive to cold, I used the finest cotton and fur to meticulously sew a pair of knee guards. I even infused the inner lining with medicinal herbs to promote blood circulation and dispel stagnant blood. When she received them, her eyes actually turned slightly red. She hugged me. Besides my mother, no one has ever been so thoughtful about my old injury. Riower, thank you. As for Crown Prince Zhou Jingchen, I rarely saw him. His state affairs kept him busy. When he occasionally visited the rear courtyard, it was mostly to dine in the Crown Princess's main quarters. Towards me, his secondary consort, he remained courteous yet distant, as if that single not bad uttered in the queen's palace had been nothing more than a passing remark. I was quite content with this quiet arrangement. I harbored no romantic notions towards him. In fact, memories from my past life had long since extinguished any lingering hope for marital affection. My life now is good. I have the Empress and Crown Princess who care for me, and the quiet, peaceful Qingguang courtyard. But I haven't forgotten that a venomous snake still dwells in the Eastern Palace. 12. Since entering the palace as Baolin, Lin Yushu had kept a low profile. She resided in the most remote Tingyu pavilion, her rank so low that without a summons, she didn't even have the privilege to pay respects to the Crown Princess. But I knew she would never remain quiet. Sure enough, my informant in the Pavilion of Listening to Rain reported that over the past few months, Lin Yushu had secretly bribed a young eunuch responsible for sweeping the courtyard and a palace maid working in the laundry room with silver sent from her family. The consort Xian had also privately bestowed gifts upon her twice. She was gathering strength, waiting for her chance. And I, too, was waiting for her to make her move. I instructed a palace maid, mix that set of men's clothing into the palace garments and take them to the laundry room for washing. Ensure Lin Yushu's bribed maid sees the men's attire. Then, feign panic, clutching the clothes as you flee, dropping a pouch behind you. Lin Yushu has been waiting for her chance, hasn't she? I'd be happy to hand her one myself. Early spring, a palace banquet. Imperial relatives, high ministers, and their families gathered in the Hall of Joyous Melodies. I sat at the same table as the Crown Princess. As a Baolin, Lin Yushu occupied a lower seat, her figure barely visible. Midway through the feast, the music was sweet, the songs and dances joyous. The emperor, feeling unwell, had already excused himself. The empress lingered briefly before preparing to leave as well. Suddenly, Lin Yushu rose, walked to the center of the hall, and knelt to pay her respects. Your Imperial Majesty, the Empress, Your Imperial Highness the Crown Prince, and Your Imperial Highness the Crown Princess, this servant, Consort Lin Baolin, has urgent matters to report. The entire hall fell silent. The Empress frowned slightly. What is it? Lin Yushu raised her head. Pointing at me, her voice clear yet trembling, she declared, this servant must expose that consort Lin. She privately possesses men's clothing. Her conduct is improper and may taint the imperial bloodline. The words sent shockwaves through the hall. Countless eyes instantly fixed upon me. The Crown Princess's expression darkened, her grip on her wine cup tightening. Crown Prince Zhou Jingchen set down his chopsticks, his gaze sweeping indifferently over me and Lin Yushu, betraying no emotion. The Empress's voice turned cold. Lin Baolin, do you know the gravity of the crime of slandering a consort? This humble servant has evidence. Lin Yushu cowed out. This servant witnessed with her own eyes a man's pouch hidden in consort Lin's quarters. Its design is novel, certainly not found among the palace's standard items. This servant has seen similar fabric and patterns on the uniforms of the changing guard. She drew the pouch from her sleeve, brown leather base embroidered with a pagoda shape. Court pouches adhered to strict patterns. Auspicious clouds, endless swastikas, dragon motifs, such designs were mandated. This pouch was undeniably foreign to the palace. Her words rang with conviction, as if she held undeniable proof. Whispers erupted throughout the chamber. Consort Lin seems so demure, yet she dares to be so bold? No wonder His Royal Highness the Crown Prince rarely visits her. If this is true, it would be a scandal. I set down my teacup, rose, and walked to the center of the hall, kneeling beside Lin Yushu. My posture was composed. Your Majesty the Empress, Your Highness, Princess Consort. My voice was steady. The pouch mentioned by Lin Baolin did indeed originate from the servant's palace. Another wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Wild delight flashed in Lin Yushu's eyes. I continued, however, this pouch was not kept privately. It was a piece of fabric entrusted to me by Her Highness the Crown Princess several months ago. She instructed me to use it as a pattern to embroider a new pouch for His Highness the Crown Prince, intending it as a surprise for his birthday. Her Highness the Crown Princess can attest to this. All eyes turned to the Crown Princess. Zhao Mingjin rose slowly, approached me, and first bowed to the Empress and the Crown Prince. Then she declared in a clear voice, "Your Majesty, Mother, it is true. That fabric was a new import from the western regions obtained by my maternal family." Believing His Highness would appreciate it, I asked Consort Lin to assist with the embroidery. To keep it a surprise for His Highness, we kept it private. I never imagined it would lead to such a misunderstanding by Lin Baolin and cause today's commotion. Her gaze turned to Lin Yushu, sharp as a blade. "Lin Baolin, if you saw the pouch, why did you not first inquire with this palace or Consort Lin? Instead, you rashly made accusations at the palace banquet, before the imperial relatives, destroying someone's good name? Was this an unintentional misunderstanding, or a deliberate frame-up?" Lin Yushu trembled. "Your servant. Your servant merely feared the imperial dignity would be compromised." How noble, fearing the imperial dignity would be compromised. I took up the thread, my voice still calm yet laced with icy skepticism. "There is one more matter I find unclear. The Eastern Palace guards rotate their shifts outside the inner palace grounds. Except for the Crown Princess, who by decree may inspect palace security at the inner flower gate during designated hours or relay urgent matters, no ordinary palace consort could possibly set foot outside the inner palace, let alone encounter a guard changing shifts. May I ask, Lin Baolin, when, where, and under what circumstances did you encounter an Eastern Palace guard changing shifts outside the palace grounds, and moreover, managed to get close enough to discern the pattern on the pouch at his waist?" Lin Yushu shuddered violently, her lips trembling, yet not a single word escaped her. Her pleading gaze drifted instinctively toward Consort Xian and the second prince, Zhou Jinghen. Consort Xian sat composed, her countenance dignified, though the knuckles of her fingers clutching the handkerchief had turned white. The second prince, however, kept his eyes lowered, idly turning a wine cup in his hand, seemingly detached from the matter. He paid no heed whatsoever to the clandestine intimacy shared by the two. I. Cold sweat beaded on Lin Yushu's forehead. Perhaps I misremembered. Maybe it was just a distant glimpse along the palace path. The palace path? I interrupted softly, my tone remaining calm. Which guard? His full name? Which squad he belongs to? Which section he was patrolling? If Lin Baolin could see the pattern on the pouch clearly, he must have been close. Surely he remembers some distinguishing features? Or perhaps someone else was present who could vouch for Lin Baolin? Each question was like a cold blade, piercing through her contradictions. How could she possibly recall any guard's name or features? She couldn't bring herself to say it, she had merely glimpsed a guard's figure in her panic during her secret meeting with the second prince. To speak such words would be to condemn herself forever. I. She stammered, her face turning from pale to ashen, her body beginning to tremble slightly. Seeing this, Consort Xian immediately interjected with a smile, attempting to lighten the mood. "Oh dear, look at this child. The festivities must have been lively today. She likely drank a few too many cups and is a bit tipsy, hence the rambling earlier." She turned to the Empress. "Your Majesty, please do not take offense. Lin Baolin is young and may not hold her liquor well." Tipsy? My lips curved slightly as I looked at Consort Xian, my gaze clear. In response to Consort Xian, I assisted the Crown Princess in managing this palace banquet. Knowing my elder sister has always been unable to hold her liquor, I specifically instructed that instead of wine, she be served peach blossom soup. Peach blossom soup? Could that possibly intoxicate someone? The smile froze on Consort Xian's face. Father Lin Wenyuan, who had remained silent, could no longer stay seated. He abruptly rose and knelt in the center of the hall. "My daughter Yushu has been pure-hearted since childhood. She wouldn't even step on an ant. Today, she must have been momentarily blinded and mistaken the object. She had absolutely no intention of harming anyone. She was simply overwhelmed by concern, afraid her younger sister might make a misstep and tarnish the imperial family's reputation." Her mother threw herself down beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Your Highness, please see clearly. Yushu is the most sensible and considerate child. There must be a misunderstanding in today's events. Rayer, she is your own sister. Why must you be so relentless, determined to destroy her?" Their voices were filled with anguish, every word a reproach. In my past life, I had witnessed this scene countless times. Each time, I yielded. I admitted fault. I bore injustices and punishments not mine to suffer. Watching their anxious, heartbroken expressions, not a single ripple stirred within me. I merely gazed silently at the Empress and Crown Prince seated above. The Empress narrowed her phoenix-like eyes, exchanging a glance with the Crown Prince. Crown Prince Zhou Jingchen's voice was calm as still water, yet carried the weight of 1,000 pounds. Lin Baolin. I ask you once more, where were you, whom did you meet, and how did you come to possess this pouch? If you cannot explain, it shall be deemed deliberate framing of the consort, disruption of the palace banquet, and spying on imperial affairs. If you can explain. He paused, his gaze drifting subtly toward the second prince. Then you must explain thoroughly. Lin Yushu collapsed completely, sobbing uncontrollably, repeating only, "This servant does not know. Truly, I do not know. I must have seen wrong. It must have been a mistake. It seems you cannot explain." The Crown Prince spoke flatly, his tone devoid of emotion. "Mother, this concerns palace security and the reputation of the consorts. It is no trivial matter. Lin Baolin's testimony is incoherent and riddled with inconsistencies. She should be interrogated thoroughly by the Ministry of Punishments. All palace attendants involved must be investigated rigorously." The Empress nodded, her authority radiating, approved. "Guards, take Lin Baolin away and place her under strict surveillance. Minister Lin, Lady Lin, until this matter is clarified, you two must watch your words and actions." Two burly maids stepped forward and dragged Lin Yushu to her feet. "Father! Mother! Save me! Consort Xian!" Lin Yushu shrieked, struggling wildly, all traces of her usual grace and composure gone. The banquet ended in disarray. I rose and left the banquet hall alongside the Crown Princess. As we passed my parents, father lowered his voice, grinding out the words through clenched teeth, "Rebellious daughter. You'll pay for this." Mother, however, fixed me with an icy stare, silently uttering two words, "Wretched creature." I pretended not to hear, my back straight, my steps steady as I walked out of the Chang'an pavilion. 13. The next morning. The head maid attending the Crown Princess arrived, bearing a rosewood box. She explained it was a gift from the Crown Princess to calm my nerves, then whispered, "The noble consort visited His Majesty's palace this morning, apparently hoping to gloss over the incident. But His Majesty refused. He said that since it involves palace affairs, it must be thoroughly investigated." I thanked the attendant. Opening the box, I found a pair of jade bracelets of exceptional clarity, along with several boxes of precious perfumed ointments. I knew this was the Crown Princess Consort's clear message to me, and to all within the Eastern Palace, that she stood by my side. By afternoon, I had fallen ill. The imperial physician examined me, attributing it to emotional turmoil and fright, prescribing rest. I did need quiet, and I needed to avoid certain people. Sure enough, by evening, an unsigned letter was slipped through the door of Chiwu courtyard by an unfamiliar, rough-looking eunuch. Unfolding it, I recognized my father Lin Wenyuan's familiar handwriting. "Rower, you went too far yesterday. Even if Yushu was at fault, she remains your elder sister. How could you drive her to such a place as the Ministry of Punishment? Go immediately to the Crown Princess and the Empress. Explain that yesterday was merely a playful quarrel between sisters, a misunderstanding. Beg for their mercy and Yushu's release. If you refuse, or if Yushu suffers even the slightest harm in the Ministry of Punishment, do not blame your father for disregarding our bond. Your expenses in the palace will no longer be covered by the household. You'd better think carefully about this. No inquiry. No concern. Only threats. Cut off my funds?" I clutched the letter and smiled faintly. In my past life, when I lay dying in the Prince of Huainan's mansion, I too wrote home begging for help, even just a little medicine or silver. It vanished without a trace. Later, Cui Lu told me that when mother saw the letter, she only sneered coldly, "A daughter married out is like water poured out. Does the prince's mansion lack food and clothing for her? She must have mismanaged her affairs and angered the prince. Giving her money would be wasted. Better to save it for Yushu's expenses in the palace." I held the letter close to the candle flame. The fire licked up the paper, spreading swiftly until it turned to ash, falling into the cold copper basin. Father, mother. The debt of your nurturing, I repaid with my life in my previous existence. In this life, only enmity remains between us. If you won't give it, I'll take it myself. 14. The Department of Punishments. Deep within the dungeons, where sunlight never penetrated, dim oil lamps flickered on the walls, casting the winding watermarks on the damp, cold stone. Lin Yushu was confined alone in a narrow cell. In just 2 or 3 days, she had wasted away beyond recognition. Her once meticulously tended jet-black hair hung in tangled strands. Her moon-white brocade skirt was filthy beyond recognition, and her fingers bore deep purple bruises from torture. Curled up in a corner on a pile of dry straw, her eyes were vacant. I entered, cloaked in a dark hooded cape, its brim obscuring most of my face. Hearing the movement, Lin Yushu jerked her head up. "It's you. Lin Yurong. Have you come to mock me?" She tried to lunge forward but was tripped by her shackles, tumbling back onto the straw in a heap. "Sister, there are no outsiders here. There's no need for such agitation." My voice was not loud, yet it echoed with unusual clarity within the dungeon. "I've come to offer you a way out." "A way out?" Lin Yushu snorted, her voice hoarse. "You'd give me a way out? You'd rather see me dead. If I wanted you dead, why would I come to see you?" I took 2 slow steps closer, watching her through the bars. "Wouldn't it be better to let you rot away here silently?" She stared at me fixedly, her breathing becoming ragged. I drew a letter from my sleeve, unfolded it, and held it up to her face through the bars. "Look at this." Lin Yushu took it suspiciously, squinting in the dim light. After reading just a few lines, her expression changed. It was her father's handwriting, she recognized it. The letter stated that her father had once cherished her for her talent, hoping she could marry well and bring glory to the Lin family. Now, not only had she failed to win favor, but she had become entangled in a palace scandal, potentially exposing her secret relationship with the second prince. The Lin family had resolved to sacrifice the pawn to save the king. She must not survive the Ministry of Punishment to reveal further compromising details. The letter even instructed me, if opportunity arose, to secretly aid her death by illness in prison, ending all troubles. In truth, I forged it. No. Impossible. Lin Yushu's hands shook violently, pages rustling. "Father. Mother wouldn't do this to me. I'm their precious jewel." "Their what?" I asked softly. "Their foster daughter they've cherished for over a decade? Or their pawn to climb the social ladder, to be traded for the highest bidder?" "Shut up!" she shrieked back, tears streaming down her face. "You lied to me. This letter is fake." I watched her collapse with calm detachment. Was the soothing tea consort Xian sent the day before yesterday also fake? Lin Yushu jolted, her eyes widening in terror. "How? How do you know? How did I know?" The Eastern Palace may be vast, but uncovering its secrets was never difficult for me. That bowl of soothing tea, laced with deadly poison, had long been secretly swapped by the Crown Princess's people for a harmless, ordinary tonic. The consort Xian and the second prince had already discarded Lin Yushu like a useless pawn without hesitation, and now they intended to silence her. If not for the Crown Princess's discreet intervention, sister would already be a cold, lifeless corpse. I sighed. "Sister, don't you understand? Father and mother would sacrifice me for the family, they'd sacrifice you just as easily. Consort Xian and the second prince, seeking only their own survival, would certainly not spare you. In this world, who truly cares whether you live or die?" Lin Yushu slumped down, the letter slipping from her limp hands. She hugged her knees, burying her face within them. Her shoulders shook violently as suppressed, despairing sobs escaped her. After a long while, she lifted her head. Tear-streaked, her eyes gleamed with a desperate, all-or-nothing madness. "What? What do you want to know? What do you want me to do?" Her voice was hoarse. "I'll tell you anything, if it means I live." Sister is indeed clever. I crouched down, meeting her gaze. "Tell me, what exactly did you plot with the second prince and consort Xian? Who else did you place within the Eastern Palace? Which ministers in the court are your people?" Struggle flashed in Lin Yushu's eyes. If I tell you, will you spare my life? She fixed her gaze on me. I cannot guarantee it, I replied honestly. But I can hand you over to the crown prince and his consort. If you hold enough value, perhaps you might secure a life of imprisonment instead of immediate execution. At the very least, it would be far better than being poisoned to death here, or slowly tortured to death in the punishment bureau. This temptation was immense for someone on the brink of death. Lin Yushu closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, only a gray, resolute resolve remained within. Fine. I'll tell you. The Eastern Palace doesn't have many people. Besides that little eunuch and the laundry palace maid, there's another working in the tea room, a mole planted by Consort Xian years ago. The list and contact details are written in a small ledger. The court officials. She rattled off several names, positions neither high nor low, yet all occupying pivotal posts. Among them stood the startling figure of the Prince of Huainan. My hand tightened slightly within my sleeve. Where is the ledger? I pressed. Lin Yushu forced a smile uglier than tears. I feared they'd burn their bridges after crossing the river, so I hid it long ago. It's not in the listening to rain pavilion, they won't find it there. Where is it? The Eastern Palace Library. Third row of bookshelves, seventh column counting from west to east. On the top shelf, there's a set of comprehensive mirror to aid in government. The ledger is wrapped in oil paper and hidden in the middle volume's false cover. Her gaze was complex as she looked at me. Lin Yurao, I admit defeat. But don't get too cocky. Consort Xian and the second prince won't let you off. And father and mother. If they find out you pushed me to this, they'll find out soon enough. I stood up, brushing imaginary dust from my sleeves. Sister, thank you. I turned away, refusing to look back at her collapsed form on the floor. 15. Obtaining the ledger went smoothly. The crown princess personally accompanied me to the library, where she discreetly retrieved the comprehensive mirror of the former dynasties. Within its thin pages, meticulous handwriting recorded dates, locations, individuals, monetary transactions, and even cryptic messages. Beyond a few minor palace attendants from the Eastern Palace, the ledger detailed private dealings between court officials and the second prince's residence, bribes received, messages delivered, all laid bare. Following the name of the Prince of Huainan, it documented his pledge of loyalty to the second prince through Lin Yushu, along with 2 substantial offerings of gold and silver. It was him after all. The crown princess's expression grew stern as she leafed through the pages. Father's health has been failing in recent years. Some people's ambitions have grown bold. Without hesitation, she immediately took me and the ledger to the crown prince's study. Crown Prince Zhou Jingchen studied the ledger carefully, remaining silent for a long time. The study was brightly lit by candlelight, illuminating his handsome yet stern profile. His gaze did not meet mine or the crown princess's. Instead, it lingered on the distorted signature of Lin Yushu at the end of the ledger. What do you suggest we do? He asked, his voice devoid of emotion. The crown princess glanced at me and spoke first. Your Highness, this matter is of grave importance, involving palace security and collusion with the former dynasty. The palace servants on the list should be immediately and secretly detained for interrogation. As for those within the court, with irrefutable evidence, they should be handed over to His Majesty for judgment. The crown prince's fingertips tapped lightly on the tabletop, producing a rhythmic, faint sound. Consort Lin. He finally turned his gaze upon me. This affair began because of you. What are your thoughts? I lowered my eyes and replied respectfully, this humble consort leaves all decisions to Your Highness and Her Highness. However, my parents are also implicated on this list. I dare not speak rashly, but I beg Your Highness to handle this according to the law. Do not show leniency because of me. Handle it according to the law. That was my stance. The crown prince fixed me with a deep look, his eyes holding something complex I couldn't fathom and didn't wish to probe. I understand. He closed the ledger. You may withdraw. I shall handle this matter with discretion. 16. The days that followed appeared calm on the surface, yet turbulent currents churned beneath. Several palace attendants vanished from the Eastern Palace without a trace, rumored to have been sent to the labor camp for misconduct. Yet storms erupted one after another in the imperial court. The first to face investigation was the Prince of Huainan. Imperial guards stormed his mansion, seizing illegally manufactured weapons and armor, secret correspondence with border commanders, and records of treasonous statements. With both witnesses and evidence in hand, the charge of rebellion was ironclad. The imperial decree came swiftly, the title was stripped, the estate confiscated, the Prince of Huainan sentenced to lynching execution, his wives, concubines, and children reduced to slave status, and all retainers exiled 3,000 li. When the news reached me, I was embroidering a new screen. My hand remained steady, each stitch precise and orderly. The man who had whipped me to death in my previous life and hastily dumped me in a mass grave, this time, I sent him to the execution platform first. I heard that on the day of his execution, the crowd of onlookers was as vast as a sea of people. The prince wailed in agony for 3 days before finally drawing his last breath. Truly, a delightful sound. The second target was the Lin family. Father Lin Wenyuan, Minister of Rights, colluded with imperial princes, leaked examination questions, and sold official positions for bribes. Evidence was irrefutable. Mother Lady Wang, though a woman of the inner quarters, exploited her husband's authority to accept massive bribes, brokered deals for the second prince's faction, and was implicated in plotting against imperial consorts. On the day the imperial decree arrived, I was keeping the empress company in her chambers. She held my hand and sighed, "My dear child, you've suffered enough." Such parents! Alas, they brought this upon themselves. Rest assured, His Majesty and the Crown Prince know your innocence. You won't be implicated. I rested my head on the Empress's lap and shook it softly. Your Majesty, I am not suffering. Only sometimes I wonder, how can blood relatives be so cold and heartless? The Empress gently stroked my hair, saying nothing. Soon, news arrived, the Lin residence was raided, my father and mother were both imprisoned in the heavenly prison, awaiting their final judgment. They say when mother was dragged from the estate, she raved like a madwoman, screaming my name and cursing me to a miserable death. Father, his face ashen, only repeated, "Wicked daughter." Both of them wicked daughters. As for Lin Yushu, her testimony and the ledgers proved decisive, saving her life. Yet while death was spared, punishment remained. Stripped of all titles, she was tonsured and sent to the most austere nunnery on the capital's outskirts. There, beneath ancient lamps and Buddha statues, she would spend her remaining days. This fate, perhaps, tormented her more than death itself. The noble consort was banished to the cold palace. The second prince, Zhou Jingheng, was confined to his quarters for reflection, stripped of all officials and guards. The storm gradually subsided. 17. When the autumn wind stirred, the crown princess invited me to the stables. She wore her usual sleek riding attire, radiating spirited grace. I donned the men's clothing she had given me, draped with a cloak, and walking beside her, I truly resembled a delicate, scholarly young gentleman. "Does it feel any better now?" she asked suddenly, reining her horse to ride alongside me. I paused, then understood what she meant. "Not exactly better," I replied, gazing at the distant sky with its scattered clouds. "Just that what needed to be done is done." You think too much." The crown princess sighed. "Once vengeance is served, one must look forward. The days ahead in this palace are still long." She suddenly reined in her horse, turning to face me with bright, earnest eyes. "Rower, I know you hold no affection for His Highness. But within this eastern palace, and in the years to come, a child might bring you greater peace. His Highness. He isn't entirely indifferent to you." My heart gave a sharp jolt. The crown princess smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "That double-sided embroidered screen, His Highness keeps it in his study, often gazing at it lost in thought. He once inquired about the embroidery technique for the headband you made for the Empress. He is a man of deep thoughts, but his heart is not made of stone." I lowered my gaze. "Your Highness, this humble servant. Do not rush to refuse, nor rush to agree." The grand consort patted my hand. "Let things unfold naturally. Whatever choice you make, I will always stand by your side. In this palace, we sisters must support each other as we walk forward." Sisters. That word, spoken from her lips, carried a palpable warmth. I lifted my gaze and offered her a smile. "Yes. The end."